Hello and welcome to Global News Factory. I'm your host, Vikrant. Howard Lutnick is back at the microphone and the mic is filing a complaint. The man looked at a map of the world, circled the biggest democracies, and declared them in need of fixing. His full line should be framed in the Museum of American Entitlement. I'm quoting him. We have a bunch of countries to fix, like Switzerland, Brazil, India. He says these are countries that need to really react correctly to America, open their markets, and stop taking actions that harm America. Watch this.
We have a bunch of countries to fix, like Switzerland, Brazil, right? It's got an issue. India. These are countries that need to really react correctly to America. Open their markets. Stop taking actions that harm America. Stop taking actions that harm America.
Translation: do what we want, when we want, because we said so. Delhi needs fixing. By whom? Washington, which cannot fix its own debt ceiling without a hostage drama every 6 months. The US, by the way, spends more on defense than entire continents and still managed to cross a historic red line. Last year, it paid more in interest on its debt than it spent on the Pentagon. It is hard to imagine, but it is true. And it still wants to fix India's homework. It is called delusion with a ledger. Now see this. Ray Dalio, the billionaire investor, just warned that we are heading into very, very dark times as the US and UK drown in debt. When a man famous for being calm about cycles says the lights are dimming, maybe switch from sermon mode to self-help. If your interest bill is larger than your defense bill, your first fix is not Mumbai or Sao Paulo, it is Washington DC. So ditch the megaphone, Mr. Lutnick, and pick up a calculator and count your debt and feel worried about your future. Fix yourself. Let's also decode the phrase react correctly to America. It used to mean buy our stuff because it is the best. Now it means swallow our tariffs and pretend it tastes like freedom. See, era of obedience is over. The world is not a set of countries to fix. It is a marketplace of equals, where respect buys access and results buy loyalty. Bring offers, not orders. Bring math, not megaphones. And if you insist on prescribing medicine to India, Brazil, and Switzerland, at least read your own chart first. The one with the giant line item called interest. That is now larger than your favorite toy called defense. And that number is your red light. Fix that, Mr. Lutnick. And the rest of us might even take your advice seriously. For once. Moving on, Kaja Kallas has now said the quiet part out loud. Europe cannot carry this war on its back, not militarily, not economically, and not politically. The EU is out of ammo, out of cash, and out of confidence, and the only thing still in surplus is speeches. She tried to dress it up with policy perfume. She said Europe alone is not responsible for helping Ukraine end the war. It means if Washington or Trump steps out of the picture, the script ends with Europe tiptoeing off the stage, not charging the barricades. And she even passed the buck with a straight face. She said he was the one who promised to stop the killing. So it cannot be on us. Incredible. For 2 years, the EU posed as the backbone of European security, and now the message is if the American showman leaves our tent, the circus closes early.
The EU has so much to offer for our own citizens in the values we stand for and the fundamental rights, the opportunities and the security that we provide, the opportunities and the security that we provide.
So why this anxiety among this servant squad? Because Moscow's direct acknowledgement of EU's involvement in the war. So we have this statement from Sergei Lavrov, and for the first time he acknowledged that EU is directly involved in the war. He said, NATO and EU are in this fight through Ukraine.
Another vivid example provoked by the West is the crisis in Ukraine, through which NATO and the European Union want to and already have declared a real war on my country and are directly participating.
Now, that line was not random spies, it was a weather report. If the EU keeps pretending to be a non-belligerent while acting like a quartermaster, it should expect the storm to move. One hint of direct Russian pressure on EU soil? Cyber, energy, drones, pick your flavor. And the Brussels bravado shrinks faster than a winter gas stockpile. You watch the body language. Kallas admits that European citizens are nervous. And then she drops the punchline of the week. We cannot respond too strong because that might spook our citizens. This is so laughable. I'm quoting. If your response is too strong, that also has an effect on our societies. What a clown she is. What a clown show we have in Brussels, in EU. Let's translate the whole thing into plain and sentimental prose. Europe sanctioned away cheap Russian energy, drained its ammo for Kiev, and now faces a front that eats steel faster than Brussels can mint communiques. The result is exactly what Kallas just whispered. Without American money, American missiles, and political cover, this "we will stand as long as it takes" this line lasts as long as a hashtag. This is not me being cruel. This is arithmetic. You need 3 pillars, 3, to fight a modern industrial war. First, energy, that is steady and affordable. Second, industry that can surge without begging. And third is politics that can absorb bad weeks without therapy. Frankly speaking, the EU has none. If Europe cannot answer strongly without cracking its own social glass, then Europe's leverage is borrowed and the lander lives in Washington. Call things by their names. This is not a shared burden movement. It's a burden you cannot lift without a foreign supporter. This is not Europe standing tall. It is Europe standing on American stilts. Moscow holds escalation ladders the EU cannot climb. Energy levers that still bite, missile and drone output that keeps rising, air defenses that learn every night, and a home front that, you like it or not, absorbs pain better than a block built on 6-month election cycles and 3-day news storms. You don't have to admire that. You do have to factor it. Moving on, America, listen up. Because your medicine cabinet is about to learn economics the hard way. Everyone is busy yelling about Trump's tariff tantrums, but that is not the real bomb under your pharmacy counter. The masterstroke came from BRICS, with China quietly taking a chainsaw to its import wall and dropping the 30% duty on Indian medicines to zero. Zero. The world's second largest healthcare market just threw open the doors to the world's biggest maker of affordable generics. India, the pharmacy of the world, now gets a red carpet lane straight into 1.4 billion customers who pay at scale, buy on time, and don't throw tantrums. When that kind of demand flashes green, supply does not wait around to chit-chat with Washington. It gets on a plane to Shanghai. Here is what that means in normal, easy English. The US fills billions of prescriptions every year, and almost 9 out of 10 are generics, the cheap, reliable stuff that keeps blood pressure down, infections under control, chemo cycles on time, and wallets alive. A huge slice of those pills either come from India or rely on ingredients made there. When competition is healthy, you get 4 or 5 manufacturers on a molecule and prices are rock bottom, they're down. You lose a couple of players and prices climb fast. Fall to 1 or 2 and you start kissing the out of stock sign while paying triple for the leftovers. Now, picture that. China waiving zero duty and long-term contracts at Indian manufacturers while Europe and African health systems line up with multi-year deals of their own. Where do you think factory slots go? To the buyers who sign early and guarantee volume. Spoiler, that is not the US right now. No, you cannot just buy somewhere else like you are switching lunch spots. Europe is already in the queue. Hospitals there are price sensitive and they move fast when a good pipeline opens. So this is going to be real painful. Not one big shortage that makes headlines, but 100 micro shortages that make life miserable. This antibiotic today, that blood thinner next week, a cancer oral on back order. These are the problems that are going to be very common in America. So when supply tightens because India is shipping duty-free into China and contract heavy into Europe and Africa, every avoidable cost you add in Washington directly attacks your wallet. That $6 refill becomes $8 or $12. That $30 injectable becomes $90. Something that seniors and working families feel every refill. Pharmacies start saying, "Come back Tuesday." Hospitals blow their budgets on basic molecules. Yes, this is a BRICS masterstroke and an American own goal all at once. China gets affordable supply and predictable contracts. India gets scale, cash flow, and leverage to finally balance trade ties with China, which historically has been tilted in favor of Beijing. So it's a win-win for both sides, India and China, and the BRICS also. If you are an American, brace yourself for this pharma storm. Moving on. Trump said Japan would invest $550 billion upfront in the US and South Korea would invest $350 billion upfront.
And we're doing well. We've never done this well. We have, because of the tariffs that are coming in, the deals that are being made, $950 billion in one case. $950 billion, where previously they paid nothing. We have, as you know, in Japan it's $550 billion. South Korea is $350 billion. That's up front.
Both countries pushed back. First, Japan said no to that number. And now we have reports that South Korea has also said $350 billion is not cash on day one. It would be loans, guarantees, and equity over time tied to real projects. In short, no giant wire transfer, no instant money. That is a big setback for Trump. We have this report by Reuters. Trade talks between US and South Korea have stalled over these disagreements. One more setback for Howard Lutnick. He will soon start saying South Korea needs a fix too. South Korea also said something basic and honest. That much cash upfront is not possible without hurting its own economy. Remember, $350 billion is close to a fifth of Korea's yearly output or GDP. You cannot pull that kind of money out of any healthy economy in one go without damage. That is not a bargaining trick, that is math. Real investment does not move like a campaign line. It moves with permits, factory plans, tax credits, supply contracts, and bank approvals. It comes in phases, it follows construction, it ramps as lines open. Japan and Korea already invest in US, but they do it step by step, not as lump sum to please a headline. So here is the truth in plain words. Trump's upfront claims are not real. The money will not show up the way he says. Korea and Japan will invest, but only as projects mature and numbers make sense. If you try to force upfront, you do not get more money, you get delays, higher risk, and boardrooms looking elsewhere. If the goal is more jobs in America, stop selling fantasy checks. Lock in clear rules, stable policy, and fast approvals. Then the money comes on schedule, not on a slogan. And that is all for now. Thank you very much for being with me. You're watching GNF.